Good afternoon, folks. Welcome to the MMA Sucka podcast. My name is Tim Wheaton, joined as always, the editor at MMA Sucka, Frazer Krohn. Frazer, how you doing today, sir?
Yeah, good, thank you, mate. We were just saying it was maybe one of the greatest UFC event to ever take place in the UK this weekend, and yeah, you were over in Belgium causing riots. So we jumped straight into a little debrief on what went down at Glory 80, I believe it was, wasn't it?
It
And
was. It was. So we
yeah,
had one of the best UFC shows in history. Like you said, this is probably event of the year 2022 already. Easily the best show in the UK. I was over in Belgium covering Glory 80. This was the Bada Hari fight versus Arkadiusz Verdrosic, Libby Rigters, Tiffany Van Soest defending her title. We got about 4.5 fights before a riot broke out. This was a fun little, the brief of it. If you want the long scoop, I do a kickboxing show with Glory kickboxer Brandon Catino, and I'm going to do the big scoop on there, and it'll be later on the same day. It'll be on Monday. So the big scoop will be on that show. The short scoop is that a bunch of Polish soccer hooligans were present there, and these are also people who may be ultra-nationalistic right-wingers. And the other half of the arena is a bunch of Badr Hari fans from Morocco. So you can understand the conditions that this arena was now in. They also didn't serve alcohol at the arena for safety purposes. So you can understand there was a few red flags going in. And no, we were all escorted out by police. And I'll tell you more about that a little bit later on. But let's get into the really good UFC show. Essentially, like you said, off air, Frazer, congratulations. You were right about everything.
Yeah, like we said last week, we went a deep dive, and whether it's because we're both UK based or just because it was such a good card, but we said don't be surprised to see, what was it, a 12 fight card. Yep. Don't be surprised to see 12 British winners, a British winner in every fight. Obviously, we had the Pavlovich fight, which it was a good knockout, but it's certainly going under the radar. It's unfortunate. Pavlovich is a brilliant. I think it was a brilliant knockout, but no one. Unfortunately for him, no one really cares because the Brits took the headlines, and I think we were disappointed in the week to lose the Nathaniel Wood fight because I thought Nathaniel Wood. We saw pictures on Instagram; he was in phenomenal shape.
Yep. And
it was disappointing to lose that fight, but the fight night continued with 12 fights, and it's like I said and like we said, it's probably easily up there top 3 greatest nights in UFC history for the UK. It's event of the year so far this year without a shadow of a doubt. You don't get kicking off the night, Mohamed Mokaev flying knee to guillotine choke of Cody Durden, and you've got one of the best prospects in the world of MMA. I haven't seen this much hype around someone since Aaron Pico. But Pico lost his Bellator debut. He was choked out within the first few minutes. And for Mohamed Mokaev to come out and to speak the way he did all week, and then to put on the performance that he did in under a minute, phenomenal performance for Mokaev.
I think that one thing that with Aaron Pico as well is how insufferable some of the promotion felt with, like, they were putting him on the main card and he had trainers being like, this guy's the next John Jones. He trains harder than George St. Pierre. He's the next Anderson Silva. With Mokaev, we're not biting at the hype unrealistically. It's not unrealized hype. This guy has been proven time and time again, and he's not the one doing the talking. His trainers aren't the one doing the talking. It's us who watch him fight are like, this guy is the next champion.
Yeah, for sure. And, like you say, with Pico, he's being shoved straight on the main card, Bellator's first ever event in New York. I think the event was headlined by Fedor and Matt Mitrione, from what I understand. I think that was the event anyway. But, Mokaev, first fight on a UFC London card, not a great time for the US audience. It's probably, I think it probably kicked off around 4:30, 5 o'clock our time. And, you could see from just watching it on stream, I wasn't able to get tickets, didn't get credentialed, but you could just see from watching it on Fight Pass that around the octagon it was empty. There wasn't a lot of people there, and
it's too bad.
And yet that doesn't make that's fine for Mokaev. You need these fights where he's getting the UFC jitters. It's a UFC fight. He goes through UFC fight week and then puts on a performance like he does. be shocked. I think we'll see Mokaev another twice this year, maybe June, July time, and then at the end of the year, he needs it's 125. He needs a higher opponent than Cody Durden. No disrespect to Cody Durden because he had a good performance last time out, but Mokaev going into the bout was 5-0, and Durden was 12-3. Durden had 10 more professional fights than Mokaev, and yet it looked like Durden was the one making his debut. Mokaev absolutely dominated him, and I think you're looking at the next. Well, maybe not the next, because we've got Tom Aspinall and a number of others, but you're looking at a British-based champion. The guy was born in the year 2000, and he's
21
for sure. He's dominating the game, and he's one of these that he's based out of the UK. He represents the UK, but he's not afraid to travel to get his training from gym to gym to gym. He's getting high level training wherever he goes, and it's showing off. He seems so relaxed in there, and it might have come across that he was a little bit jittery, but that's just flyweights. They're going to run around the octagon regardless of UFC jitters or not, and I think he's just going to be a mainstay. And he speaks well as well. He's already being called out by people in the UFC, people who are Jake Hadley called him out, and Jake Hadley was meant to be on this card. He had two fights cancelled on this card. He's already got these little rivalries going on in the background, and this is what you need to build a star. And I think Mokaev is going to be that star, and he could very much, like we said, Henry Cejudo saved the flyweight division. Mokaev could be the next wave of these guys that are saving the flyweight division.
One of the problems is the flyweight division simply isn't competitive up at the top. It's not overly interesting between the top three guys, Askar Askarov, Brandon Moreno, and the God of War. It's just not that compelling of like, we're just going to have a fourth fight between the same guys. You need some fresh new blood in this division. And like, I'm a purist. I'm all about real MMA and flyweights and weird stuff like that. And flyweight's not that interesting. Muhammad Mokaev is legitimately interesting. This guy, he's up there with, if you want to talk about who could break Demetrius Johnson's record, Muhammad Mokaev might actually be your early pick.
He might even break John Jones's record of the youngest UFC champion. Like we say,
he's on track,
and he's 1-0 in the UFC. And what's interesting is that, like we say with flyweights, is 9 times out of 10, they don't have one punch knockout power. You don't get an awful lot of one punch. So their technique is crisp. It's down to a T. And that's what you get with Mokaev, that flying knee. And then he didn't even try and go for the TKO. He's flying knee. Had Durden hurt, instantly locked up the choke. And it was, like you say, it's just phenomenal to watch. And I think, despite the way he might come across, I think he's humble. Like I said, he's not afraid to travel from gym to gym to gym, searching for better training than you can get in England. Because, let's be honest, the Brits aren't well renowned for their wrestling, other than in the main event when Aspinall dominated the wrestling round, but we'll go on to that later. But, we're not renowned for our wrestling. So why not travel to several different gyms just to try and get the fundamentals, to try and get the basics down to a T, especially at flyweight, because they haven't got that one punch knockout power. So they have to have the fundamentals to be able to get the fight to the ground or pep away at an opponent. And I thought, Mokaev is definitely, we said it going in, and now we're saying it again coming out. He's one to keep an eye on.
Oh, absolutely. So I thought this was a pretty reasonable matchup against Durden. Durden has more experience, especially in the UFC, has a lot more experience. This was a fair matchup for a 21-year-old making his UFC debut. But what's next for Muhammad Mokaev? You're saying we should get him into a top 15 fight, not play around in the top 20s or anything like that to get his feet wet. He is ready for the top 20 is what you're saying, correct?
I'd say so. Tapology have got him ranked as the 23rd best flyweight. But if you look up from there, there's winnable fights for Mokaev.
I think so too.
And below him, you've got where do you go? We've got Cody Garbrandt. Well, Cody Garbrandt's ranked on Tapology. He's ranked considered 10 places below Mokaev. You've got Ryan Benoit.
Does he have
Jordan Espinosa?
I don't think he has a win. And the
No,
way
he doesn't exactly. You know, he lost to Kai Kara France, didn't he?
yeah.
So he hasn't got a win. And then, you know, you look at the guys in and around Mokaev. You've got Durden ranked one below him.
Sure.
Phenomenal matchmaking. You got Justin Ortiz in and around there still. You know, Tyson Nam, Malcolm Gordon. You know, these guys. Rodrigo Bontarin. You know, Bontarin's coming off the loss to Brandon Royval last time out, but you know, this is potentially a guy that we could almost rush through to a top 5, top 10 spot. Definitely not next because you don't want to kill that hype, but you know the skills that Mokaev's got is, you know, you want to almost push him through fairly soon because you know you've got to start in 10 years. He's still only going to be 31 years old. He could be having a 15, 16 year UFC career, and you know. He may pick up a loss here and there, but that doesn't matter. You know, in the next 16 years, he will become the champion, whether that's at 125 or 135 or even 145. You know, he's 21. He's going to be putting on a lot of adult size even now, you know, and don't be surprised to see Mokaev in multiple different divisions and definitely holding a title at some point in the future.
Oh, absolutely. He is 5'7". I think even bantamweight is a reasonable weight class for the guy if he keeps filling out. Like you say, featherweight is potential. And we don't want to get ahead of ourselves. And believe me, we don't buy into hype. We are the most snobbish people in MMA. If we're giving you a hot tip here, I honestly think it means something. But let's move up the card a little bit here. Who do you want to talk about next? Because we got some big ones. Paul Craig keeps making me look like an absolute fool. Elise Reed gets a win. Jack Short in a gets a unanimous decision here. Some real fun fights to break down here. What do you think?
Yeah, it's disappointing for Corey McKenna. I think she struggled with the range of Elise Reed, and obviously
Yeah.
she suffered her first UFC loss. But you know it's good for Corey McKenna that that's not her first professional loss. You know, she suffered defeat before. She'll be back again. I think she's only 21, 22. Yeah, so she's 22. You know, Corey McKenna will be back, and whether she's going to be the kind of one to kick on and really, you know, like we're saying with Mokaev, get a title shot, get a title in the near future, I'm not so sure.
Yeah.
Despite her age, I think she's still got a lot to learn. But again, she's 22 years old. She can pick up these losses, and I don't think losing to Elise Reed is going to be too detrimental for her career. You know, I did pick McKenna to win, and you know she was the bookies' favorite, but these things happen in MMA. You know, she picked up a loss. It was a split decision loss. It was close. She did struggle with the range and the taekwondo style of Elise Reed, but you know, it is what it is, and you know, you move on. Like, I don't think she loses too much star power. And the same with Valiev in the Jack Shaw fight. I
No.
thought that was a really, really good fight, and he doesn't lose too much because of the way he fought. You know, he came out in the third round, was dropped twice, was very close to being finished by Jack Shaw. He took Jack Shaw down. Jack Shaw took him down. And, you know, if there weren't so many phenomenal performances throughout the card, I think they were, you know, they're quite unlucky not to have to notch fight of the night. But, you know, when you give out 9 bonuses, I'm not sure if Dana can afford to give a fight of the night out. But, you know, Jack Shaw looking phenomenal. He's now putting the power in behind his shots. He's working with Israel Adesanya's nutritionist. So he's, you know, the weight cut is obviously going a lot smoother now. And he's, you know, in his previous fights, I think Shaw didn't get tired, but he definitely sort of waned a little bit in the towards the end of the fight. There's no chance of that happening against Valiev in this fight. And, you know, he looks really good. I think the only thing missing from Jack Shaw's game, you know, he entered the UFC undefeated at 10-0 with number of finishes on his record. He then got 2 finishes when he debuted in the UFC back to back. But he's gone 3 decisions now, and you know that's maybe the only thing that's holding Jack Shaw back is his ability to finish a fight. With that being said, I think he needs a big name next. It doesn't even need to be a you know, one of the world's best fighters, but he needs a name, a Kyler Phillips, a Ricky Simone. You know, these are well-known, well-established names that can fight. You know, and he needs that name on his record to really push on and really crack the top 15. I imagine he'll be ranked this. Obviously the rankings come out on a Monday, so I imagine he'll be ranked soon. But he really does need that sort of standout showcase performance, and unfortunately just couldn't get Valiev out of there this weekend, because I think this would have been it.
So there.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I thought you cut out there for a second. Maybe it was my end. I was just looking at so UFC London. They could have given this guy a bonus. The live gate set the venue record in the O2 Arena history. The live gate alone generated $4.5 million USD. And even with
17,000 people.
This was sold out. I think it was a record setting in terms of both numbers, people attended, and dollar amount generated. They gave out 9 bonuses. They made money just off the gate alone, not even looking at any TV sponsorships. Give everyone a bonus. This event had so many bonuses. And you know what? We also got to finish in Paul Craig continues to make us all look stupid. I'll admit it. He makes me look like an idiot every single time. He's an exciting, action-packed fighter, and I'll give him the credit where credit is due. He won this fight fairly squarely. What do you think of the future?
Yeah, he stresses me out to watch. I'm a big Paul Craig fan. I like the
me out. I know, because he dies in every fight.
For sure, this fight, I'd say there was points in this fight where he may have been out. Krylov was bouncing his head off the canvas, and so what? When you've got as good jiu-jitsu as Paul Craig's got, you can afford to take the licks from Krylov, just to then wrap up that submission. I think it goes down as a triangle choke, but we saw the same against Jamala Hill. We saw the same against Ankalaev back in London a few years ago. Mm-hmm. And it's he needs to maybe just shore up his defense a little bit, because as a Paul Craig fan, I don't want to see him potentially getting knocked out on the ground because he hasn't covered up. But the saying of tap, snap, or nap I'm a massive fan of that, and it's paying dividends. A lot of people pick Krylov going into this one.
Mm-hmm. That's fair. That was a reasonable pick.
Completely,
a gamer, yeah.
And he's doing stuff that Glover Teixeira couldn't do and finish Nikita Krylov. He's doing stuff quicker than Jan Blachowicz, and doing stuff that Ankalaev couldn't do last time. That was last time out. That was Ankalaev's last fight was against. Krylov's last fight was against Ankalaev, and Ankalaev couldn't finish him over 15 minutes. And Paul Craig goes in there and does it inside of 5. So, yeah, Paul Craig, exciting, but I wouldn't want to be a family member of Paul Craig's, because it's just a lot of stress,
Man, this sport I don't know, this guy is tough as nails. I wouldn't want to take the licks that he's taken and still come out the winner, but it's a consistent pattern that we've seen in his fights, that he's willing to get hit. He's willing to almost get finished a bunch of times. This triangle, we got to rename this like last second triangle, or getting beat up and slapping on a triangle to the Paul Craig choke at this point. It is hilarious. It is the funniest thing that continues to happen in this sport, and it keeps happening. And
Krylov, when will people learn? When are people going to learn just not to go to the ground with him? Krylov, Paul Craig is one of the few people that we see pull guard and effectively do so.
Yeah.
So when Krylov when they were wrapped up in the first 10 seconds, throw Paul Craig to the ground and leave him there, and at least make him work the stand up, have him up against the fence and wear his arms out so he can't be thrown up, throw knees to the thigh and sort of dead leg him, because that way you won't be able to hold on to a triangle as effectively. It's just, when are people going to learn that Paul Craig is phenomenal at jiu-jitsu, and probably one of the best jiu-jitsu practitioners in the 205-pound division? He's got 13 wins by submission. He's never won a fight by decision, and yet people are still gonna try and go to the ground with him. It just doesn't make sense. And who's next? I think. Yeah,
that was my next question. It's a tough pick, isn't it?
Dominic Reyes, I think, dominates him in the stand up. Yeah. The Anthony Smith fight, I think, is a good call out from Craig. He called him out main eventing in Glasgow, and I think I'm down for that. Anthony Smith is, he likes going to the ground, but he's got, the slick, smooth stand up. So I think that's it. And it makes a lot of sense. Is either guy going to be world champion? Probably not, but who knows these days, no one really picked Glover Teixeira to be world champion. And, he's obviously is world champion. And, Smith's coming off 3 consecutive wins, but they're not the greatest wins in the world. You know, the sub of Devin Clark on short notice main event, the TKO of Jimmy Crute when Crute had that you know the drop foot injury, as we'll call it, and then he submitted Ryan. Did he submit? Yeah, he submitted Ryan Spann last time out. You know, Ryan Spann he's a good fighter, but he's not quite. I don't think the guy. And I think, you know, Smith versus Craig, they both bring the intensity every time they fight, and I think it would be a really good fight.
Yeah, the thing is with Paul Craig, and because we don't have a lot of time to reminisce, but it's hard because he is ranked behind two guys right now that he's already beat. He's beaten Nikita Krylov and Jamal Hill. Both guys are ranked ahead of him, so he's going to break into the top 10. There's not really anyone in the top 10 that I would pick for him to defeat. Is the problem? That's why we're having so much trouble with matchmaking. Does he beat Anthony Smith? I would never pick him in that fight, but he might win.
Yeah, for sure. And like you said, you know, there's guys in and around the top 10 that he's beaten. You know, Ankalaev, Jamal Hill, which I'm not quite sure how he is ranked above Paul Craig, because it was Jamal Hill's last fight, apart from the Johnny Walker fight. Jamal Hill's last fight was a pretty devastating loss to Paul Craig, but you know, it is what it is with the rankings. But like you say, people are gonna sleep on Paul Craig, and rightfully so, because you know he does get beaten up in fights, but he always wins them, and I'm here for it. And you know, like you say, we haven't got a lot of time, but going forward, the Pavlovich fight is what it is. It's a heavyweight knockout, and it was an early stoppage. I don't think so. I think, you know, no one wants to see Shamil receive any more damage than necessary, and I think Shamil's probably just happy that it was Sergey Pavlovich that he was facing. You know, he was scheduled to fight Tom Aspinall, and Aspinall would have handled him, I think, even better than Pavlovich.
Yep.
Going forward, I think, you know, Mike Grundy and Makwan Amirkhani was a strange fight. It was a disappointing fight for Grundy. You know, he had a lot of sort of personal issues going into that fight, and he wanted to show that he was the elite wrestler, but when he shot him for that single leg and he's left his neck out of there, he's been put to sleep by Makwan Amirkhani. I think, unfortunately for Grundy, that's probably it in the UFC. You know, three losses on the bounce after, you know, coming into the UFC, getting the win, and then suffering 3 losses on the bounce. But you know, you look at who he's fought: Movsar Evelev, Lando Venata, and now Makwan. You know, it's tough for Grundy. It's tough for Grundy. These are all established names that you'd expect to see on the main card a lot of the time, the main card of a fight night. And you know, Evelev is undefeated, and he gave Evelev as good as he got. And you know, for Amirkhani, what's next? Well, you know, he's that kind of fighter. You know, he kind of is what it is with Makwan Amirkhani. Is he going to go on to be a world champion? No. Is he going to go on to have more exciting fights? Most certainly. You know, he is a strong, solid wrestler. He always brings the intensity, but you know, Amirkhani is what he is. He's a fun fighter. He's 33 now, and if you're not in and around, you know, at least the top 15 at featherweight by the time you're 33, there's a lot of guys ahead of him that are better than him. But yeah, it was a rough night for Grundy.
I don't mind MMA middle class fighters. Like, some of you guys aren't going to run for a title, and some of you guys shouldn't be cut by the UFC. Amirkhani is that kind of guy. Hang out, make some money while in the midterm. You're a good middle class guy. There's nothing wrong with that. He takes losses to good fighters, and he takes wins against pretty good fighters too. Fun gamer as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Topuria time? Is it Topuria time?
This one was hard. This one was a tough watch for me. You know, it's Jai Herbert lives and trains out of Birmingham, which is, you know, about 15-20 minutes from where I'm from, and you know, he was dominating that fight. He was absolutely dominating that fight in the first round. Probably, well, that's the best we've seen Jai Herbert, even though he's got a finished victory against Karma Worthy. That's the best we've seen Jai Herbert.
Yeah.
But I've seen a breakdown of the finish. You know, Topuria rips to the body, bringing Herbert's hands down, and then comes upstairs. And it's not even it's not even the knockout itself. It's the nature of the knockout and the way that he fell and the way that he was just put straight out. And we were saying on the, you know, we were talking in the MMA Sucka chat, and if if Jai Herbert gets the same kind of treatment as we'll go on to speak about with Paddy Pimblett, he's 4-5-0 in the UFC at the moment. But to debut against Trinaldo, then to have Renato Moicano, then to have Karma Worthy, now to have Topuria, it's like I said, I don't know who he's pissed off at the UFC, but it's I hope he gets another fight, and I hope he gets another fight against a fairly not easy opponent, because that's there are no easy fights, but he was scheduled to fight Matt Jacasey back in the day before his UFC for his UFC debut. Then he was scheduled to fight Mike Davis on this card. Mike Davis is a middle of the road fight that I think that he could easily win, and it's he was doing so well. He was absolutely dominating Topuria. It's the worst we've ever seen Topuria look, and that is no fault of his own. That's just how good Jai Herbert was. But Topuria's a gamer. It's one of the comebacks of the year so far, and to hold that power even up at lightweight, let's be honest, he's a featherweight and he needs to go back down to featherweight because he was very much outmatched in the size sort of realm. But if he's still carrying that power up at lightweight, I dread to think what he can do to some of the featherweights fighters down there.
Absolutely unreal. Do you think it was fair the UFC and the Athletic Commission there in London let in, like, there was inspectors, there was doctors? This is a murder investigation, and they're messing with the body. I don't know that was a reasonable thing to do, but no, those are the kind of knockouts that you remember forever. He was
for sure.
He was out. That was absolutely wild.
That's a Ben Askren, Jorge Masvidal style knockout for me, or Alistair Overeem, Francis Ngannou. These.
Oh, you remember?
I want to see Herbert back in the UFC, and I want to hear. I did check on his social media last night, and I haven't really seen anything. We're assuming we haven't heard anything negative, which is good. But that's the kind of knockout where you want to check on the welfare of the guy. That was a savage, and he was out for a long time. Topuria was having his hand raised without Herbert there. Herbert was still being attended to by the doctors, and a similar thing happened. We had that fight with a huge knockout, and then the fight after that,
it just keeps getting better.
Huge knockout, and it's I mean, I think that's, from my memory, the first spinning elbow knockout in women's flyweight history. I'd assume the only lady getting knockouts at flyweight is Shevchenko, really, and I know she hasn't landed a spinning elbow.
Yeah.
And it's not only that she landed the spinning elbow. Obviously, we're talking about Molly McCann here. It's not only that she landed the spinning elbow, but it's Molly McCann as a person after the fact as well.
Yeah, she lands the spinning elbow.
She runs out, she jumps over the octagon, she runs around the octagon. Speaking to Dana White, she went into the crowd, grabbed a belt, held the belt aloft. Why not? Enjoy the moment, because like we say with a lot of fighters, unfortunately she's not going to be a UFC champion. I don't believe. These aren't the kind of wins that get to a belt. So enjoy the moment. She's a middle of the road fighter. I will certainly be tuning in to see her next fight. She's full of energy all fight week. She's great. It helps that she's fighting at home in London, and that she had Paddy on the card as well, and that the crowd are going crazy for her, and that she had a really good first round where she was dominating Carolina. She began to fade a little bit, but then it's not a problem if you're fading and you can land a spinning elbow like that. And it wasn't a spinning elbow TKO. This is a spinning elbow, and no further follow-up shots were necessary. Same as Topuria's right hook. No further shots were necessary. And, that's forever in the highlight of Molly McCann, and that's forever in the highlight of the UFC now. That is a highlight reel knockout. And she's etched her name in history now, without a doubt.
So, and before every live UFC show, they play their Baba O'Reilly highlight reel, and it has like the greatest moments in UFC. Guys like Matt Hughes, Frank Trigg, you got George St. Pierre, Matt Hughes, you have Anderson Silva and his Vitor Belfort knockout. That spinning back elbow is now one of the greatest highlights in UFC history. I think she absolutely stole the show. That is one of the best knockouts, not just in women's flyweight. That is one of the best knockouts I've seen in MMA.
Yeah, for sure. We were all going on, was it last year or the year before, about Jiri Prochazka and Dominic Reyes' spinning elbow knockout. This is better, in my opinion.
This is better. Yeah, it is.
Dominic Reyes was being dominated in the fight anyway, and he didn't have much left in that fight. and he was up against the fence. So when Prochazka threw it, he didn't have any room to move.
Yeah.
Carolina was very much in the fight. The third round was in the balance. First round McCann, second round you could argue was going to Carolina, maybe McCann, and then in the third round McCann had to go out and win that round.
Yeah.
And she didn't only go out and win the round. She went out and put an absolute statement down. And like you say, I don't even think this is kind of recency bias of that knockout.
Oh.
That was a phenomenal knockout.
That was.
Regardless of when it could have happened 5 years ago, 5 months ago. That is going to be in my shortlist for knockout of the year. And it's not because it's a woman's fight. We don't see many knockouts in women's fights. That is a phenomenal knockout, and it's certainly already. I'm already making notes for my shortlist of the year, and it's only March. So Molly McCann's definitely put a spanner in the works for me.
We check out the KO of the year 2022. Sea of Tapology. What are we? We're only March. We're at the end of March. MMA's best knockout 2022. It's voted on by fans. Oh, it's not. Yeah, McCann, Carolina. This happened 2 days ago. It's already at number 10. I think it's going to keep rising. I think it's better than the 10 things in front of it.
And for that, that's already, like you say, at number 10. And we haven't even been able to I haven't seen any sort of breakdowns of that knockout yet. And I know we're speaking from an MMA sort of nerd geek kind of, let's watch it in slow motion. Let's watch it. Let's look at the foot position. Let's see if she was throwing it earlier on in the fight and not landing it. But I will certainly go back. I've only watched the fight once. I've watched a knockout about 30 times, but I've only watched the whole fight once. And I want to see if she was setting that up, if it was something that Carolina was doing in the fight that, on the break, she was clearly dropping her hands. And that would probably, clearly McCann's not just throwing that blind. She's seen something that she can utilize then.
Yep.
And that will make the knockout even better for me to, go full MMA geek, full MMA nerd, and full breakdown mode on that knockout and just see, was she setting it up? Was it something that she'd seen in the fight, or was it something that Carolina's susceptible to in other fights? And see whether McCann just used her intelligence there to get a phenomenal knockout. And I think that is what it is. I think she did just use her MMA intelligence to brutally knock out her opponent.
I think it's we have to ask. That audience wants to know. I want to know, is this going to be the next video breakdown this week of you're showing where she was setting it up or maybe spotting it, or you're going to watch the fight and be like, oh, she just threw it out of nowhere. I'm not doing a video breakdown.
More than likely we'll just watch but there was so much on this card that I could do a video breakdown on every single fight and never quite get through the entire card. So I'm not sure if we'll see a whole video breakdown, but I might try and I'll tweet out from the Sucka account what my opinion on the matter. And just on that, on articles that I'm writing this week, I did mention last week about the Daniel Kinahan piece, just what I was talking about, but that interview was cancelled. The interview went ahead. It's all been recorded, but legally the interview isn't allowed to go out yet. So hopefully in the upcoming time that interview will come out and I will be breaking that down. But yeah, at the moment legally the interview wasn't released, so I can't obviously listen to it, which says all you need to know about Daniel Kinahan, in my opinion.
I can't legally release this interview. I might be arrested for it.
Exactly.
Let's move up. Our Icelandic boy gets the job done. Coming back after 3 years away, unanimous decision win against Sato. What is there to say on Gunnar Nelson? He got the job done, is what we can say.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it was a good performance, and I think the performance is going under the radar because of what happened elsewhere. But he's a complete shutout. He's a nasty guy. Those open palm strikes are kind of like wrapping the knuckle, the top of the knuckle on the face to try and open up gaps for him to slide his arms in. And he didn't get the finish, no, but after best part of 3 years away, I think Nelson needed minutes, and he needed to get in there and feel the roar of the crowd. And I don't think fighting behind closed doors would have done any good for him, because it would have then been 4 years, 5 years maybe before he fights in front of a crowd again. And I think it's a really good performance by Gunny. And what's next for Gunny? I think he's still got a future. His stand-up does lead itself to maybe appearing slightly sloppy. He is caught because he's got that Stephen Thompson style of sort of the karate stance of rushing in and getting, when he does because he's constantly moving, when he does get caught, he's slightly off balance sometimes. But with that being said, you know, the guy has got absolutely elite jiu-jitsu. And, you know, I don't think there's many people in the welterweight division that can hang with his jiu-jitsu at the moment, regardless of, you know, who they are. Just looking down topology now, I'm not sure quite who will be next for him. Maybe a Daniel Rodriguez to sort of have the stand-up versus the grappler.
Yeah,
Going down, Nicholas Dalby, maybe. Nicholas Dalby would be a good fight, but
there's definitely winnable fights at welterweight. Even in the top 15,
sure.
Like there's winnable matches for him. It's tough because welterweight hasn't moved much at the top, but I think he could probably break into the top 10 at the highest point of this.
I mean, if you look at his losses, it's Damian Maia at UFC 194, and that was a ground fight, and he just lost to Damian Maia in a ground fight.
Fine, yeah, reasonable.
Yeah. So does everybody else. You know?
Yeah.
Santiago Ponzinibbio, there was a lot of controversy over that fight. It was obviously the main event in Glasgow a few years ago.
Yeah.
But there was, I think, 3 eye pokes. Ponzinibbio poked Gunny 3 times. He pulled his shorts when Gunny was kind of trying to evade a strike. He pulled his shorts, so you know he lost that one. Then he lost to Leon Edwards. Well, again, so the last 9 people that Edwards has faced, and then he lost to Gilbert Burns not long before Gilbert Burns got a title shot. So you know these are, yes, they're losses, and there's no denying that these, you know, he's losing these fights. But if you look at Gilbert Burns defeated Gunnar Nelson, defeated Damian Maia, Tyron Woodley, and then had the fight with Kamaru Usman. You know, these are top level guys. And then you look at the wins that he's got. Alan Jouban in London a few years ago, and he was very much at his best. Jouban, Alex Oliveira, and now Sato. You know, his wins don't really speak for themselves, but his losses do, which is maybe a strange way of saying it, but it's. He hasn't beaten the elite guys, but he's lost to the elite guys, which means that, you know, that would maybe suggest that he's a 10 to 15 kind of guy, but he's definitely a big name. He's a main card fight. You know, he hasn't fought in 3 years, and he's the 4th fight on the main card behind 3 phenomenal fights. So it's, the future's brighter for Gunny if he decides to stay fairly active.
Well, yeah, he can break into the top 10. With favorable matchups. He can do quite well. Guys like Gilbert Burns and Damian Maia combined have won like 8 world championships in jiu-jitsu, and Gunnar Nelson is on the ground competing with them. He has one. If you remove those guys, he has the highest level jiu-jitsu in the entire welterweight division. With good matchups, he can crack the top 10, and we look forward to the future of him. We'll see what they schedule with him next, or if he comes back in 3 years, or just keeps. He runs a training center, doesn't he? Like, he's busy.
Yeah, I'm not sure how to pronounce it. It looks like it's called Minotaur, but he runs a gym in Reykjavik in Iceland, I believe, and you know that's where McGregor famously went instead of attending the Diaz press conference in UFC 202, which is why they were pulled from UFC 200, I believe. But you know, the only thing that worries me about Gunny is 2 things: that he doesn't quite have the elite training partners that you maybe need to really compete. You know, if you compare it to Gilbert Burns, he used to train with Kamaru Usman, he's now training with, you know, you've got Michael Chandler and all those guys at Sanford, and Gunny hasn't quite got the high level training partners that he maybe needs. But and also that he's got John Kavanagh in his corner, which for this fight wasn't an issue because Gunny was dominating. But you know, going back to the corner and him just sort of telling Gunny, you know, you know, no change, just keep doing what you're doing. Yes, it works in this fight, and because that's what was required in this fight. But I think going forward, he's gonna, you know, I did rate John Kavanagh, and he hasn't shown me an awful lot in recent times to suggest that, you know, my trust in him has almost waned a little bit as a coach. There's no disrespect to Kavanagh, but maybe it's just a McGregor effect of McGregor does what he wants. But with Kavanagh, I think he's got to have that breakout star again to really prove just how good a coach he can be. But it wasn't this fight to show it off, because Gunny did just dominate this fight. I think regardless of Kavanagh being there or not, I could have been in the corner and just said, yeah, keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah,
and,
there you go, yeah.
And he would have, you know, it's phenomenal performance by Gunny.
I mean, Kavanagh made 20% of the purse, and we could have found any person in the audience just to be like, hey, keep doing what you're doing. You're doing a great job, man. Keep it up. Thumbs up. Like,
Yeah,
man, you're a
exactly.
paid trainer. Give me some advice here.
Exactly.
What do we say about Paddy the Baddy, who stole the audience, stole the show, stole the headlines? ESPN is plugging Paddy the Baddy. This was the Paddy the Baddy hour. He beat a person, and now he's got all the hype in the world at lightweight. It is tough to measure I want to celebrate this man's success. He had an impressive victory again in the UFC. He's looking pretty good. He's looking not terrible. But the hype is a little bit much, as opposed to like what we were saying with Muhammad Mokaev, where like buy into the hype. This guy's going places. The Paddy the Baddy hype is a little bit obnoxious, if I'm being fair. But I want to say he had a good victory. He did well.
Yeah, he's 2-0 in the UFC, and I'm not really sure how much we know about him, to be honest. We know about him from his Cage Warriors days, but if you're exclusively a UFC guy, this doesn't tell you anything about Paddy. It just almost confirms what we knew about his chin. He doesn't have a great chin by the looks of it in the UFC. He was rocked in his first fight. He was seemingly rocked in this fight straight away from Vargas. And Vargas rushed in and wasn't able to. I think he closed the distance too quickly on Paddy.
Mm-hmm.
And that led to him almost falling over, his shots falling into Paddy, and then we had the entanglement on the floor.
Oh, no.
If Paddy didn't have the walkout that he did, and he didn't have McCann, are we talking about Paddy today?
I don't know.
No, in my opinion. And, that's no disrespect to Paddy, but I don't think we learned anything that we didn't already know again about Paddy Pimblett. All we really learned is that he can handle the pressure of fighting in front of a big UK crowd. For me, it's really difficult. He was given a performance bonus, and now, on paper, he's got 2 performance bonuses in 2 UFC fights. Did he deserve a performance bonus in this fight? Absolutely not. And I think if we're going purely on the 3 minutes 49 that he actually spent fighting in the octagon, he doesn't deserve a performance bonus. If you go on the 20-25 minutes from his walkout to when he gets to the back again, give the guy all the performance bonuses. He knows how to get the crowd going. He knows how to play up to a crowd. And what I did like about Paddy, he was being the joker, the playmaker going into the fight. And then as soon as he walked in the octagon, he was bigging up the crowd. And then it was just that switch was flicked, and he was, focused on Vargas. And, at the end of the day, he got the job done. We were having a big discussion in the MMA group with all the writers of just how good is Paddy Pimblett.
Yeah.
I still don't think we learned anything from this fight. And like we said about Jai Herbert, if he gets the same treatment as Jai Herbert, which realistically they should, Paddy's had more fights from what I understand. He's more experienced than Herbert as far as fights are concerned. Yes, he is younger by 5 or 6 years, but they're both former Cage Warriors champions. Yep. They both, can finish a fight, and we know they can. But Paddy's just blessed with the gift of the gab, as it were. He's blessed with promotional ability, whereas Jai Herbert's not. But if you give Jai Herbert the 2 guys that Paddy's faced, Jai Herbert's 2-0 in the UFC with 2 knockouts.
Easily, absolutely.
And if you swap that round, if you give Paddy, Trinaldo to start off with, then Renato Moicano, then Karma Worthy, then Topuria, I'm not so sure if we're looking at an undefeated Paddy Pimblett. Undefeated in the UFC, Paddy Pimblett, I should say. He has lost before, but it's when you've got a gem like that, you do have to sort of nurture him, and he's getting the Sean O'Malley treatment.
Yes.
Do they give him Topuria next? I really, that is the fight to make next. And we said that, I said that last week. Even, I put out on the Instagram account, regardless of how these 2 guys get on, that's the fight to make. After they had the altercation in the Frazer Hotel or a media day or whatever it was. That fight doesn't happen next, in my opinion. That is a fight night main event without a doubt.
No doubt. That's a big one,
and it doesn't happen next. It doesn't, Topuria will more than likely drop back down to featherweight, and Paddy avoids Topuria like the plague. It's Paddy isn't the striker of Jai. Jai Herbert is a much better striker than Paddy. Paddy's got a better all-round MMA game, in my opinion. but he's not the striker of Jai Herbert. Jai Herbert was punishing Topuria with his length and with his striking. You know, he's landing that knee constantly. He's landing the heavy hands, the straight 1-2 down the pipe.
Yep.
Paddy won't do that, and you can't, as we saw at the weekend, you can't exchange with Topuria because he's got dynamite in his hands and it'll knock you dead, as we saw with Herbert. So
I don't think the UFC is going to book it. Like, Paddy doesn't have great defensive striking. I think Topuria might end the hype train, you know?
Yeah. And, you know, and it makes a lot of sense because hardcores have got Topuria as the hype train that he deserves to be. You know, like Mokaev,
Yes. Yeah.
We've been talking about Topuria since his debut. And, you know, the Ryan Hall fight doesn't really do him too many favors because, yes, he defeated Ryan Hall, but when a guy just kind of flops on the floor and you manage to hammer fist him through the canvas. But now he's got this win against Jai Herbert, upper weight class, and it's, you know, he hasn't got the win against Jai Herbert, and it was a wrestling heavy game plan where he just, you know, lies on the bigger guy for 3 rounds. He exchanged with Herbert. He was able to get Herbert to the ground, and then he knocked him clean out. And like you say, Paddy hasn't got the best defensive game in the world, and I really do think that is the main factor as to why this fight won't be booked. But it needs to be booked. It should be booked. But they don't want to ruin one of 2 hype trains in the UFC. Paddy's maybe entering the UFC with the most hype of anyone that we've seen since Conor McGregor. You know, he's getting a bigger push. He was 3rd on this fight card. Surprised not to even see him in the co-main event, but I think that the star power of Arnold Allen and Dan Hooker speaks for itself. But he's the 3rd fight on this card when you've got ranked light heavyweights on the card. You've got Jack Shaw, who's undefeated. You've got, you know, Topuria, who's undefeated. You've got, you know, Pavlovich and Shamil with guaranteed a knockout, and yet he's still 3rd on the card. I think he's, outside of McGregor, he's maybe the biggest hype train that we've seen in the UFC for the past however many years, you know. And they're going to protect that. He's a bigger hype train, in my opinion, than Sean O'Malley, and Sean O'Malley's arguably more skillful than him. But they do not book O'Malley in hard fights, and they won't book Paddy Pimblett in hard fights. And it's a shame because the Topuria fight's a fight to make. I know it, you know it, everybody knows it, but it's not going to be the next fight, in my opinion.
No, he's getting the Roger Ware to Eric Silva until he pissed off the UFC. Who are some of the other soft guys that they just like pitched softballs to?
You know, it's the O'Malley effect. O'Malley literally is there saying, look, I don't need to fight top 10 guys because I'm getting paid the same whether I fight a top 30 guy or a top 10 guy, which is a fair point.
That was a really respectable moment too. I was like, this is the biggest moment of his career thus far, the biggest audience, and he still stood up and said, I need to be paid more for more competition. That's a big moment. That means a lot.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, it makes sense. It's a fight business. You know, you fight Conor McGregor, you get a huge purse from it.
Oh yeah.
And if you fight someone that's far more technical than McGregor, but not a bigger star and probably a harder fight than McGregor, you won't get paid as much. It is what it is. You know, it's fighter pay 101. Is the bigger fights you're in against the tougher guys, is the more you'll get paid, and that's just how it is. And you know, with Paddy as well, I don't know if many people picked up on it, but he got quite political at the end of his post-fight speech with the justice for the 97 and don't buy the sun and all this. And
wait, I don't know anything about that. Bring me up to date.
Yeah, so for those that don't know, I can't quite remember the year, but there was a huge disaster at a football game with Liverpool fans, where 97 people sadly lost their lives. It's, you know, the Hillsborough disaster, and it's justice for the 97 because, you know, the 97 people are the people that passed away, and the police didn't handle it well at all, and that's, you know, and the Sun newspaper is it's a pretty awful newspaper in the UK, but you know,
I knew that. I knew that much.
Yeah, that goes without saying.
That goes without saying.
And you know, it's just the Sun, and you know, even if you just Google the Sun and Hillsborough, the Sun, I can't quite remember the ins and outs of it, but the Sun didn't deal with the Hillsborough disaster well at all. You know, they say, you know, they're defending what they said, and I think they were essentially saying that it was the innocent people's fault rather than the police's fault. And it's a whole big thing. If you go to Liverpool, and you buy the Sun and you read the Sun on the train, you'll get a number of sketchy looks. And, this is something that all people, Liverpool does have a big gang culture from the Evertonians and the Liverpudlians and the Toxic crews and whatnot. And yet they all come together in unity to not buy the Sun and not have any respect for anyone that buys the Sun, which is, it did get a bit political for Paddy there. And, that's only going to elevate him within the UK. It's a well-renowned thing that people don't buy the Sun in especially in Liverpool, but that's progressed to everywhere in the UK now. And Paddy's banging that drum as a Liverpudlian, and rightfully so. It's a huge thing for that community of Liverpool. And obviously he comes from one side of Liverpool, Molly McCann comes from the other, and yet they're unified in that. And it was great to see Paddy and Molly arms around each other, singing and dancing out of the octagon. And it was that was a party night for McCann and Pimblett, and rightfully so with the performances they put on. But going back to the main point, I'm not sure how much we learned about Paddy from that performance. We knew that he had a really solid ground game before that performance. Now he's coming out with a rear naked choke victory, and he's got a solid ground game. Well, can he take a shot in the UFC? So far, there's been questions about it, but
I think
the next fight, I think, will be the one.
I'm thinking that, but we could break down his whole, like, how the UFC's been marketing him. And I think the way that the UFC's been marketing him maybe doesn't do justice to his actual fight style. He's not a plucky striker. He's always been a top position, ground and pound kind of grappler kind of guy. And they're kind of plugging him like this is like Brad Pickett. This is some striker, you know what I mean? Anyway,
McGregor 2.0, and it's not
doing him favors. I don't think that's going to help him. Okay, let's move forward here. Arnold Allen stays undefeated, knocking out a lightweight coming down in Dan Hooker. Again, just how do you keep stealing the show? The knockouts keep getting better and better as time is wearing on. Unbelievable. Great job to Arnold Allen. He moves up in the rankings. Like, it was a really good performance for Arnold Allen here. I'm sad for Dan Hooker, and that's something that it's a totally separate discussion on what this man's future holds. Like, we were talking about MMA middle class, but Arnold Allen is the real deal here. He needs a step up at this point.
Yeah, for sure. And he called out Calvin Kattar, and I think that's the fight to make. These people weren't giving Calvin Kattar any respect going into the Giga Chikadze fight at the beginning of the year, and he absolutely battered Chikadze. And now I think Arnold Allen is, that was a respectful call out after an absolutely phenomenal performance. And, I don't think too many people would have been too angry if Allen had called for a title shot or called for, I want Max Holloway next.
It's reasonable.
8-0, I think he is in the UFC now. And now he's got submissions. We've seen that he's got hands. And Dan Hooker, yes, he's dropping down to featherweight, but he didn't
9-0.
9-0. So and 18-1 overall. And like I say, Dan Hooker is dropping down to featherweight, so that is potentially going to take a little bit out of his chin. But Dan Hooker doesn't get finished easily, No,
he does. He especially
does not. By knockout. Yes, he was finished by Islam Makhachev last time out. That was Kimura, and everyone, again, 9 people out of 10 get finished by Makhachev on the ground. Michael Chandler just caught Dan Hooker cold, I think, in that first round of their bout. But if you go back, he went the distance with Dustin Poirier, he went the distance with Paul Felder, he went the distance with Aya Quinter, who's a very, very good boxer.
Yes.
He did lose to Edson Barboza, but that was his body was shutting down rather than it was him being knocked out from head strikes. Gilbert Burns, he knocked out in the first round, knocked out Jim Miller. He went 3 rounds with Mark Jacasey, who's one of the better strikers in the UFC, especially at the lighter weight classes. He doesn't get finished easily. For Arnold Allen it really felt like a coming out party for Arnold Allen to finally put it all together.
Yes.
To be able to finish, not only finish Dan Hooker, but do it in the way that he did, where he rocked Hooker. Hooker countered back with a strong, I think it was a right hook, and pretty much dropped Allen. And then Allen was just coming through. The only thing that concerns me about Allen is his gas tank. He was clearly tired, but if you throw that many punches, you're going to get tired, But, I don't want to put any negativity on Arnold Allen's performance. I think it was a phenomenal performance. And, like we said, we could do a whole episode on the career of Dan Hooker.
Yeah.
Because he's just has gloves, will fight, will make weight, will, regardless of weight, I'll make it.
Yep.
And yeah, you know, he's 21 and 12. And would I cut him from the UFC? Absolutely not. I'd have him fight every week if I could, because he's always an entertaining fighter.
Yep.
And he is that kind of fighter that, you know, will trade wins and losses.
Yep.
But I couldn't tell you the last time he was in a boring fight. Even when he beat Hakparas by decision, that's a phenomenal fight.
Yep.
So, you know, keep Dan Hooker in and around. If he wants to fight at featherweight, let him fight at featherweight. If he wants to fight at lightweight, fight at lightweight. If he wants to fight at 150 pounds, let him fight at 150 pounds. I don't care. You know, I really like Dan Hooker, and I think he's the kind of guy, you know, we bring him up pretty much every week now. But if Sam Alvey's still in the UFC, do not cut Dan Hooker.
No, Dan Hooker, he'll be a top 10 in whatever weight class he chooses. I honestly think, and you saw it here, lightweight is the better pick, because at featherweight, he's maybe has a slight size advantage. He's way slower than all those guys. And you saw it in this fight. Arnold Allen was 10 times faster. It looks like one guy was in slow motion. The other guy was speeding up, right?
For sure. Even in the sort of just the simple sort of leg kick round, you know,
yeah,
Hooker was reacting slower than when Allen was throwing them. He was throwing them, landing and all the way back out. Yeah. By the time that Hooker was even either reaching out or, you know, slightly lifting his leg off, he was just, like you say, it was just a lot slower.
Yeah.
And it's not even like he never had that sort of one punch. He had that one knee knockout power, don't get me wrong, but he never had that one punch knockout power that you can carry down a weight class. He was more like a Max Holloway sort of tippy tap striker and get to the TKO.
Yeah.
And, you know, like I do agree with you that lightweight is probably his weight class, because he doesn't have, yes, he's longer, but there's no point being longer if you can't get your shots off as quick. You know, if you're landing one to receive two or three.
Yeah.
And, you know, these guys at featherweight are quick.
Yes.
They are quick. Not as quick as Tom Aspinall, but they are quick.
Speaking of Tom Aspinall, Frazer Krohn take a lap. It was a more dominant victory than you or I had projected. You, of all people, this somehow exceeded your expectations. Frazer, tell us about the main event.
You know, without a doubt, if you go onto the MMA Sucka website, staff picks, I think the majority of people picked Aspinall anyway. Yeah. I also picked him by sub because I knew just how good his ground game. We haven't really seen his ground game. Yes, he submitted Arlovsky, but he bull rushed Arlovsky across the octagon and took his back up when Arlovsky was on his way up. But his jiu-jitsu is phenomenal. And it was just on show. And he is the quickest heavyweight in the UFC at the moment, or the quickest top 10 heavyweight in the UFC at least. You know, Francis Ngannou's got the power advantage, of course. He's slower than Tom Aspinall. I'd say he's quicker than Cyril Gane because he commits to his shots. Cyril Gane, you know, doesn't always commit to his shots. When we've seen him fight before, he's phenomenal, but he's constantly on his toes. He's got that in and out style, so he doesn't always put, you know, the entire speed because he's always thinking of the out. You know, I did a piece on the defensive work of Cyril Gane, and that was it was quite clear that Cyril Gane looks to land a shot and then circle out, whereas Tom Aspinall will land a shot and stay in the pocket and use his head movement to avoid the counter. And then he's mixing in takedowns in this fight, and he's mixing in, you know, he had a Kimura at one point that he gave up because he was position over submission. He's just, yes, he did get a performance of the night bonus. I hope he gets a little bit extra because this was the best performance, in my opinion, on the card against the best opposition. You know, yes, we've got the Topuria knockout, but he was 10-9, arguably even a 10-8 in that first round. Yes, we've got Arnold Allen, but that was a 2.5 minute blowaway. You know, Paddy Pimblett didn't look great. Gunnar Nelson dominated, but couldn't get his opponent out of there. It's almost like Tom had taken, you know, all the approaches from the guys before him, soaked it all up and put it all together in that one performance. And to finish it with a straight arm lock as well is something that we just don't see. You know, I think, 7-8 guys out of 10 wouldn't even think to go for a straight arm lock in that position. They'd just look to land elbows. You know, it was sort of side control into half guard, back into side control, back into half guard, a little bit of a crucifix position. He just looked to land elbows. Well, he'd already done that on Volkov, and he'd already cut Volkov up, you know. And then he decided, right, Volkov's arms here, I've got both of mine, I'm going to be able to put the straight arm lock on him, and you know, locked it in within 4 minutes. And what more can we say? You know, it's exactly what I told you would happen. Is Tom Aspinall is legit, and you know, I did, like I say, I did pick him to win by submission because he's got an underrated ground game, and he did say coming out of it, I don't want guys to know what I'm going to do coming in there, and you know, to a degree, he's probably the most unusual heavyweight there is on the roster because he looked very undersized against Volkov, and yeah, he was still in and around 250. I think it was about 253 that he came into that main event at. He weighed in at 252. He weighed in at, and to me he looked small in there. But with that size brings a speed. You know, he's only 13 pounds lighter than what an Ngannou or Derek Lewis or a Tai Tuivasa will weigh in at. But he's so much quicker than these guys, and it clearly plays dividends because we saw the finish. Obviously did get the arm lock, but the finish was, you know, he threw the shot out there. He avoided the counter of Volkov using purely head movement from the hips up. You know, it was just a slip and then snatched a double leg. And, you know, he did call out Tai Tuivasa, book that fight, you know, because
yes, he did.
Yeah. Is Tom Aspinall going to stand with you and box like he did with Volkov for a bit? Or is he going to go into more of the Muay Thai range like he did with Jake Collier? Or is he just going to double leg you and put you on your ass like he did against Volkov again?
Yep.
He's so unpredictable, and that's what makes him so good is his unpredictability. And you know, landing the multiple takedowns on Volkov has now made him even more unpredictable.
Yeah.
Because we know just how quick he is on these takedowns. And yeah, it's just a phenomenal performance. I'm glad that he didn't let the crowd get the better of him because, you know, it's first time fighting in front of a UFC crowd. And
it was
against Volkov, who's been, you know, I saw Volkov dominate Verdum in that exact arena a few years ago.
Yeah.
Tom Aspinall doesn't care, you know, he will just beat the guy that's in front of him. And I think him versus Tai Tuivasa is the fight to make next. And they're two fun personalities that they'll probably talk a little bit of shit online, but they'll see each other, they'll shake hands, they'll hug, they'll share a beer afterwards, and I'm here for it, to be honest.
It's you know what, and Volkov is such a good fighter. His rank doesn't quite speak to actually how good he is. His losses are to the top ranked fighters: Curtis Blades, Derek Lewis, Cyril Gahn. None of those guys beat Volkov like Tom Aspinall did. Tom Aspinall looked like he was in a higher league when Volkov was the actual A side or the actual higher ranked fighter in this matchup, and didn't look that way. He was entirely outclassed by Tom Aspinall. The future is way brighter for Tom Aspinall than I was projecting, and that's saying a ton. Tai Tuivasa was probably the best the best call out he could have done, because I think Tai is the least skilled top 5 heavyweight in currently ranked, right?
Yeah,
I think he's entirely beatable. I think like Stipe is even a very tough fight off of his back, going backwards. He does a lot of stuff better, but Tai Tuivasa, I think it's a very winnable fight for Tom Aspinall. Isn't moving too fast if he gets that fight though.
I don't think so, because with Tai Tuivasa, unfortunately for Tai, he's very one-dimensional. He is a boxer, kickboxer, who isn't going to look to take you down.
Yeah.
So that allows Tom to, you know, go into that fight with Stipe Miocic. He's a Golden Gloves champion, former UFC heavyweight champion with a strong wrestling game.
Yes.
You don't know where he's going to try and take the fight.
Yeah.
Is he going to try and wrestle you like he did in Ghana in the first fight? Is he going to stand with you like he did in Ghana in the second fight?
Yeah.
Is he going to mix it up like we saw against Daniel Cormier in their trilogy?
Yep.
You simply don't know. You know, and it's a much tougher fight. Tai Tuivasa's got all the hype right now.
Yep.
After that big knockout of Derek Lewis, and he's not going to look to double leg. And if he is, it's not going to be nearly as effective as if a Curtis Blades looks to double leg you or a Stipe Miocic looks to take you down. It's simply not going to be as effective. You don't call out a Cyril Gahn because Gahn's coming off a pretty dominating loss. You don't call out a Derek Lewis because he's just been knocked out.
Yeah.
You'd call out the guy with all the hype in the division, aside from yourself, and it's Tai. And you know, don't call for a main event. Don't call for a title shot, because you're not going to get it. We literally saw this week that Ngannou, sorry, has just had surgery.
It's out for 9 months now.
Exactly, and he's out for 9 months, and then probably we're looking at more of a year because he won't train for the next 5 or 6 months, and then you've got to book a fight, and then you've got to go through the press door and everything. So we probably won't see Ngannou again in 2022 unless it's in December time.
Probably not. No.
Tom Aspinall needs to keep regular because fighting in March, can fight again in International Fight Week, can fight again in December.
Yeah.
It's three times a year. Even if it's just twice a year, if he fights again in August. Tai Tuivasa the fight to make, and Tai takes that fight because he knows it's an easier fight for him stylistically than Stipe Miocic. He knows that he's not going to get a title shot next, and he doesn't want to face the winner of this weekend's main event in Chris Daukaus and Curtis Blaydes, because Curtis Blaydes will double leg him in Milan for 25 minutes. Tom Aspinall may do that, but he might also stand up with Tai, which there's a better chance of him standing up with Tai than there is of Curtis Blaydes standing up with Tai. So I think that's the fight to make, and I think it's a phenomenal one. And these two guys alone are breathing life into the heavyweight division, which was quite stale for a while.
No, they absolutely are. I know I've been made jokes about how weak this division is in the past, but with Tom Aspinall coming up, Tai Tuivasa bringing new life in, it is weird to think that Curtis Blaydes is the most feared person in the division just due to style. Everyone else is such an action, stand-up, brawler, boxer, kickboxer. Blaydes is the only wrestler in this division. He is a scary matchup for anyone just based on style. Like at any point, even if he's on a 2-fight losing streak, I would still say he has the best chance to maybe beat Francis Ngannou of guys currently in the top 5. But Aspinall coming up now, calling out Tai Tuivasa makes a ton of sense. He could probably get one to two more wins in 2022, win fighter of the year, headline card of the year, maybe submission of the year.
These are all things that are there to be stolen by Tom Aspinall, and he's going about it the right way. So sign me up to more Tom Aspinall fights, and I'll break them down every single week if you want me to. And we mention him on the show every single week, and now finally we can actually break it down, because it's the performance. If he would have beat Volkov over 25 minutes, I'd still be saying it was the best performance of his career because it's against Volkov. But to do that again, to beat Volkov in the way that he did, using the array of mixed martial arts that he did, phenomenal.
Absolutely unreal. So now he has 5 wins in the UFC. Total fight time is less than 15 minutes still. We still know very little about this guy. And I would say we have learned a lot more, but the biggest wins of his career were his most dominant ones. Where he needed to excel the most, he rose to the occasion as a main event fighter, as a fighter who's cracking into the maybe top 5 at heavyweight at this point. He rose to the occasion every time he was asked to, and the future is bright for Tom Aspinall. And man, this sport, sometimes every time you're like, man, I don't know about this race riot, it just brings you right back in. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. And like you said, that was this weekend. Heavyweight headline in the card. Looking ahead to next weekend, we've got 2 big heavyweight fights on the card. We've got Curtis Blaydes and Chris Daukaus headlining.
Well, I was gonna say, what if we did the loser of this match sets up against like a Cyril Gahn or something like that, and then the winner of this match maybe a Stipe, because I do want Tai and Aspinall to match up. I think that's a good one. But yeah, it was coming into this weekend. We have Daukaus. Yeah, we'll talk about it a little bit more.
Yeah, it just doesn't really do a lot for me because Chris Daukaus, if he wins this one, which I don't see him doing, unfortunately, but he's just lost to Derek Lewis. And if Curtis Blaydes wins this one, Curtis Blaydes is the nearly guy. He's the gatekeeper. If you can't beat Curtis Blaydes, sorry, you're not making it into the top 15, the top 5, sorry. But I just don't see this one being anything less than Curtis Blaydes lying on Chris Daukaus for 25 minutes. Daukaus has performed well in the UFC, and his only loss is to Derek Lewis, and they're completely opposite styles, Derek Lewis and Curtis Blaydes. And I think there's more interesting fights down the card. Joanne Calderwood or Joanne Wood against Alexa Grasso in the co-main. Askar Askarov, Cara France.
That's a great one. That's a good one right there.
It's a title eliminator. That's the winner of that fights for the title next. And Manon Fiorot versus Jennifer Maia. We're supposed to get Fiorot back a few weeks ago against Jessica Rai. Obviously been rescheduled to fight Jennifer Maia now, who's former title contender, did quite well against Valentina. We've got, Sarah McCann still fighting, which seems like she's been in the UFC forever. Neil Magny, Max Griffin's on the card. Mark Jacasey's, last chance in the UFC really for Jacasey. He's coming off two losses. They've been pretty disappointing losses, and at the end of the day, there's a lot of fights on this card that interest me more than Curtis Blades and Chris Daukaus. And the hype that we've seen for this card has been I personally, I'm all over the social medias with myself and the MMA Sucka account. I haven't seen a single thing. I had to check who was headlining this event because we haven't seen a single thing. So if you're going to promote it like that, why not put Askar Askarov versus Kai Kara France as the headliner? It's a title eliminator. And if Curtis Blades, it doesn't matter if Curtis Blades' flying knee knocks out Chris Daukaus, he's not fighting for the title next. That just isn't happening. But regardless of the outcome, Askar Askarov or Kai Kara France are fighting for the title next. But that is the main event. It's a 3-round fight. It needs to be a 5-round fight at flyweight, and it's disappointing that it's not. But it is what it is, I guess.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. There's no hype around this one at all. I thought this was an Apex one. This is headlining at Columbus, Ohio, which has hosted some of the best MMA fights in history. And it's kind of a lock of the UFC. It's one of their second homes. This is kind of a slap in the face for Columbus, Ohio. This is not a good event.
Yeah, they've got. I mean, I'd be pretty annoyed, but it's not even the best. It's not the best event that's going on this week. It's the One Championship is the best event going on this week without a doubt. And
we don't have time to break down the 20 fights on this card.
Yeah, exactly.
Sexyama is back.
Exactly. I think we'll have to. There'll be plenty of breakdowns on MMA Sucka for this One Championship event. So we'll have it. We'll have the live results, but briefly, you've got main event strawweight fight, strawweight title fight, DJ versus Rodtang in that crazy mixed rules kind of half Muay Thai, half MMA fight. You got Marias defending his belt. You've got Super Bond defending his belt.
That's a good one.
John Wayne Parr, I didn't even realize he's on this fight. Shinya Aoki's on this fight.
John Wayne Parr. He's fighting the former champion, the former lightweight champion. Like every card on this one, every fight on this one is just insanely good.
Reina Derida's in a grappling match on this card.
Yeah.
I mean, it is what it is. And you've got Daniel Kelly making her One Championship debut in a grappling fight as well, which is quite big. And like I say, this is the biggest card that no one's talking about, and it's a shame because it's a phenomenal card, but we haven't, blame Tom Aspinall and Paddy Pimblett because we haven't had time to break this card down fully. But
did you see, even Reina Derrida, we're like, wow, he's in a grappling match. Did you see against who?
I disclosed a page on my thing.
The multiple-time ADCC Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu world champion Andre Galvão. Like, this is an insane event that they are putting on here. Yeah, former champions are fighting. We're also get the summary of the kickboxing Grand Prix. So that's really just everything on this. What is going on here? So the first two are going to be, I think YouTube is the first one. Part 2 will be on their watch.onefc.com. So you have to go to their website to watch it. And then part 3 is under pay-per-view. And that's the big dice roll that One is making here. So
hopefully so, though, to have those kind of fights on pay-per-view, to have even any of those fights free to air on YouTube and then free to air on their website and then crossing over into the pay-per-view model is rightfully so. That needs to be done because they need to pay these fighters, and to have that many champions on the card alone, they need to get some revenue from somewhere. But yeah, be sure that we'll this time next week we will be breaking that down. It'll be Curtis Blades win by decision. Anyway, did you see the One Championship? Let's be honest. That's what it's going to be. It's facts are facts.
I'll give you some inside scoops because it hasn't gone public yet, but I was on the One media call, and Akiyama and Shinya Aoki apparently just straight up don't like each other. There's some old faction war or something like that there. And then Akiyama finished it by saying, I really don't care about Aoki. This is stupid. I want to box Mike Tyson. So then later I asked Demetrius Johnson if he wants to box Mike Tyson as well. And Demetrius Johnson basically kind of told me I was an idiot for even asking that, which he's not wrong. Thank you very much, DJ, for answering my question.
But we will, if clickbait's clickbait, will Demetrius Johnson fight Mike Tyson next?
This is exactly what we're talking about.
Although the answer is clearly no. clickbait, isn't it?
All right, let's get out of here for the week. We're going to be back next week to break down probably one championship. I don't know what we're going to be publishing on the site. You got anything going on this week?
I haven't got anything up on the site this week, focusing on a couple of personal projects at the moment. I think you are as well, aren't you? But yeah, we'll be all over. We'll be all over, stat picks and results. There are plenty of previews going up on the site from the other writers, so be sure to check them out. And we'll be all over the breaking news as well.
Awesome stuff, folks. We'll see you next week from Frazer Krohn and Tim Wheaton of MMA Sucka. We'll see you next time.
Take it easy.